You've probably been hearing more about flock safety in the last few months. For example, here in New Mexico, the Otero County Sheriff's Office and local police in Alamogordo recently announced an agreement with the company to enhance safety. And while Flock started with license plate readers to do things like track down stolen cars, it is rapidly expanding to include audio and video footage with AI enabled recognition. And it's already being used by police across state lines for a lot of other stuff, including watching protests and community advocates, immigration enforcement, etc., all without any kind of warrant. So let's talk about what is really happening here, how it all works, where it's being used, the real dangers right now, and what we can do about it. Number one, let's start with what Flock Safety is and its original flagship product of automated license plate readers, sometimes called ALPRs or just LPRs for short. Flock was founded in 2017, and this type of tech has been around and used by law enforcement for roughly 15 to 20 years, but AI tools and tech have increased its use since 2020. Basically, how it works is people drive by a camera mounted on a police car, road sign, or traffic light. That camera takes anywhere from a half dozen to a dozen still images of the license plate, which go into a database police can search. Privacy advocates have been worried about this for a while, but adding AI has supercharged the situation and created a lot of danger, not next year or next month, but right now. Which brings us to number two. What makes the Flock safety situation so urgent? Basically, they've layered AI tech and tools on top of their license plate readers, are experimenting with gunshot detection and an Amazon Ring camera partnership, and have made it extremely easy for local, state, and federal agencies to search their database with almost no guardrails or safety rules. Part of the problem is that Flock is a private company and it's a startup, so move fast, break things is kind of at the core of what they do, and that's a dangerous idea to introduce to local police, sheriffs, and state police, as well as federal authorities like the FBI and DHS and ICE, because it creates a lot of incentive to use our taxpayer money and resources to break the law and violate the US Constitution. Number three, what are the real uses and dangers of Flock and AI-enabled cameras? A couple of examples here in New Mexico took place up in Española. In one case, a license plate reader misread the last digit on a plate due to a license plate cover, and an officer mistakenly detained the driver. In another case, a state police officer held a high school student at gunpoint because local Española police mistakenly entered the wrong license plate number into the data sharing network. These may sound like an easy resolution, but imagine if your kid or your nephew was driving back from getting a slushie at Sonic's and the altercation turned into a police shooting. I don't think any of us would find that acceptable. Ryan Laughlin, who leads the KOB4 investigative unit, did a good story on this called The Street to Surveillance that I definitely recommend watching and reading. Now, Flock Safety also has a product called Raven, which consists of gunshot detection microphones. And just about a month and a half ago, they announced that they would use AI to alert police to sounds of human distress, including what they call screaming. Last month, Amazon Ring also announced a partnership with both Flock and Axon, which provides similar tools and tech to law enforcement to share Ring video camera footage with those police. Combined with Amazon's Familiar Faces AI recognition program that they announced recently, it's a privacy disaster. If all this sounds sketchy, unsafe, and invasive, that's because it is. For example, 404 Media investigated a case in Texas where police said they used Flock to look for a woman who had self-administered an abortion. They said it was for safety, but court records show they were actually trying to find a way to charge her with a crime. Remember the massive No Kings protests with millions of Americans exercising the right to free speech? Yeah, police used Flock cameras on those too. 404 Media also found multiple cases where local police shared their login info with ICE to use it for immigration enforcement, including in Medford, Oregon, and Palos Heights, Illinois. Plus, they found some home improvement stores like Home Depot and Lowe's were sharing data from gunshot detection microphones and license plate readers with local police, which may have also been passed along to the masked ICE agents that we've seen wreaking havoc and violating people's constitutional rights. Given ICE's proposed plan to use bounty hunters to go after immigrants, the situation is increasingly urgent. And it's not just home improvement stores or Ring cameras. Flock is continuing to actively expand. I spoke with two separate people in Albuquerque whose HOAs in the Foothills and Northeast Heights neighborhoods are considering purchasing Flock's tech and software. And clearly, this is all just the tip of the iceberg. You may be wondering, what do we do about all of this? Flock's business practices are extremely sketchy to the point where some cities and towns are outlawing its use or choosing not to renew the contract. That's something that your local area may want to consider, but even outside of that, there are some common sense guardrails and protections that a state legislature, city, or county can put in place. For example, limiting the amount of time a local agency can save and store audio and camera footage is a sensible, smart way to protect people's basic rights and privacy. Here in New Mexico, KOB4 investigative reporter Ryan Laughlin, who I mentioned, spoke with Bernalillo County Sheriff John Allen, who is working to install 21 license plate readers and is proposing 30-day storage. Albuquerque police already have 250 license plate readers and store the data for 1 year. State police store it for 180 days. Finding a stolen car or tracking the movement of someone who committed a mass shooting doesn't require anywhere close to a year, so the state legislature could require a cap of, say, 15 to 30 days max for storage so that police and federal agencies can do their actual job of investigating, but not with a blank check or fishing expedition. Cities, towns, and states could also limit access to local data unless there's a warrant signed by a judge, or even set up a binding agreement that has to be signed by local agencies from outside the state to agree to not use it for certain purposes. Why should ICE or a Texas police department hunting down someone for accessing abortion care be allowed to search data from New Mexico in the first place? A third example is to require uniform tracking in public records. Right now, agencies in New Mexico say that they log searches and attach case numbers, but that's a patchwork process, and even if they do, many other agencies outside of the state provide little or no justification for their search through Flock's shared network. Given that a judge in Washington state recently ruled Flock's surveillance data can be considered public records, odds are New Mexico and other states will need to be prepared to provide better transparency on how they use these tools anyway. And I can tell you with pretty good certainty that our state legislators, county commissioners, city councilors, etc., need more education and conversation on all of this. ACLU of New Mexico and other community and privacy advocates are working on recommendations for our leaders, especially the state legislature, but local elected officials also need to hear from us directly. Send them the stories I mentioned from 404 Media, KOB4, send them the examples of guardrails that I mentioned, and ask them to sit down and talk with you. Because all of this is happening with our taxpayer resources, and we all deserve privacy and transparency. Even your neighbor a couple of blocks over who you completely disagree with on almost everything, yes, he deserves privacy too.